Well, hello there, my darlings, and welcome back to another little episode of the Warframes. And today, as you can see on the screen, we are looking at the Caliban Rework, and there are a lot of details to get through. I will also show you how to get him if you haven't got him and didn't get gifted him through the certain period in October, which we're past now. But in the meantime, before I get into it, if this video or any of my other videos tickle your fancy, or you just love my dulcet tones, please consider dropping a like, comment and sub, because that is the easiest way you can support your favourite little YouTubers and give us just a little push, you know, a little pep. It cheers us up. Do you understand this? Anyway, let's get into it. And just so you know, I've chaptered this video up so you can scooch off to the bit you require. Now, before you can get Caliban, you must have done the new war quest. And if you had logged into the game between the 2nd to the 16th of October 2024, they would have gifted you a free Caliban Warframe. And this was to celebrate all the changes they did in the rework in the update they released on the 2nd of October, update 37. But if you didn't get a free Caliban and you want one, you can either buy him for platinum from the market, or you can purchase his main blueprint for credits from the market, and then we'll have a look at where you can get his blueprints and what you're going to need to build him. It's quite a lot of stuff from varying areas in the game, and it can feel like a bit of an uphill struggle, but we'll go over it. And yeah, there's one component that I think is going to be tricky to get if you've just completed the new war and you haven't done a huge amount on your railjack, maybe, possibly, but we'll get into that in a moment. And once you've completed the new war quest, when you head to Cetus and or Fortuna, you should see a new type of bounty available to you, and that is a Nama bounty. I don't know if they're always here, whether they cycle in with the day and night cycles, I'm not really sure. But they are on a 120-minute cycle. So as you can see at the moment, the Caliban systems are available. Doesn't mean they're 100% going to drop, but they may. And then 2 hours later, this will cycle around. It's on an hour and 44 minutes right here. Then it'll cycle through to a new kind of drop table of rewards. Now, make a note here, you can get a Nama Isoplast, and you're going to need quite a lot of that. So I'm going to go over all the different components you need to build the blueprints once you've done these bounties and got those blueprints. So there are 3 components you're going to need from Cetus, so let's head there, shall we? The first lot is 30 Breath of the Eidolon. Now those drop just from doing normal bounties on Cetus, so don't stress too much about those. The next 2 are fish, so you're going to go and need to fish for Mortis and Traylocs. Now obviously you can put bait in and you need to figure out whether they're day or night or in ponds or the ocean or whatever, but once you've got them, you'll bring them to Fisher Hey Luke and you will cut those fish up to get 20 Mortis horns, so you're going to need Mortis fish, and 20 Trayloc eyes, so you're going to need some Trayloc fish to cut up to get their components. And next up, we're going to head to Fortuna because we need 100 Hespatzim alloy, and you can only build that by buying the blueprint here from Smokefinger for 4,000 standing. However, you need to mine for Hesperon, Auton or Valis, then you take it back to your foundry and build. I think it builds 10 per build, so quite a few builds to do, I think. And for the next 2 components, I would recommend heading to Io Jupiter Defense. It's for the Hexanon and Neural sensors, and they'll both drop from this mission. You're going to need 30 Hexanon, and you're going to need 10 Neural sensors. And if you take Hydroid with his Pilfering Swarm Augment, or Korra with her Pilfering Dome, or Necros, or Resource Blessing, or Resource Boost, you'll get them in half the time. And the last 2 components you're going to need to build him are 40 Nama Isoplast, which you can get from doing the Nama bounties. Not a problem. But the thing I think might be a problem for a lot of people is the Anomaly Shards. You're going to need 9. And you can only get Anomaly Shards from doing Vale Proxima Murex missions. So I don't know if you can see, New Guard there was flashing in red, even though I haven't actually completed that node. So it's also flashing in kind of like that bluey colour. And to get the Anomaly Shard to drop, you actually have to clear 20 Sentients from a Murex ship. I know, and look how high it is, so that's tricky. You may be able to piggyback on someone else's railjack if they're a bit higher than you, but you do need intrinsics level 7 to do this mission, so that might be the thing that holds you back. Not sure. Okay, so yay. So let's have a look at his abilities next, and I'm going to go through the changes they made, and his passive is virtually unchanged. They've changed it to gather stacks when Caliban is immune. So this says allies within affinity range gain up to 50% resistance to the types of damage they're currently taking. This is very similar to the adaptation mod, so it kind of makes it so that you don't have to put adaptation in if that's the kind of mod you like to shove into your Warframes. So that's useful. So Razorjaya has received a mighty upgrade. Razorjaya inflicts Tau status effects on enemies struck while refunding some of his health, shield and energy pools, all while traversing the battlefield. Razorjaya is now a status inflicting tool with a multitude of synergies. Tap to dash forward as a spinning vortex, hitting every enemy within your radius. Caliban gains 30 health for every enemy hit, and when your health is full, it becomes shields, and if your shields are full, it becomes over shields. Razorjaya now refunds 25% of the ability's energy cost when hitting enemies, allowing it to be refunded. Loot and energy health also can now be collected. I don't think they could before. And it now inflicts Tau damage and status instead of slash and impact damage and status. So Razorjaya inflicts 500 base Tau damage and 1000 base Tau damage on lifted enemies. Lifted enemies are the next ability, so we'll have a look at that. This should allow Razorjaya to become a synergetic staple by debuffing enemies for a low to no cost. Those are the words from the Warframe devs themselves. And his second ability is Sentient Wrath. It's been brought in line with similar crowd control Warframe abilities while removing the target cap to ensure that the ability is reliable and effective at its job. Enemies suspended by this ability will now be locked in place so they don't float away, a bit like Zaku's Deny and Hydraul's Tentacle Swarm. It no longer has a target cap, and it now only inflicts Tau status damage instead of impact onto the lifted enemies. It deals 2000 base Tau damage with 35% damage vulnerability in addition to the Tau status effect. They've increased casting speed, and you can recast it now as well. And if you use this one first and then use the first ability, it's more effective. And his third ability is the most long-winded because they've changed quite a few things. Lethal Progeny. So you used to be able to summon a Conculist, but now you summon Conculists, Ortholists and Simulacrum, and we'll just go over what they all do. So all sentient summons will naturally adapt to incoming enemy damage because they're sentients. You can only summon one set of sentients at a time, so no mixing the three different types. So it's important to note that all three of these different types of sentients will recharge your shields and look after you. It's just the Simulists do them better, which we'll get into in a minute. So Conculists are a melee oriented summons, and they retain their role as the primary damage dealers of Caliban's sentience. So they have a tornado type effect, and they also cast Fusion Strike, which is your fourth ability, along with you, and they aim it to wherever you aimed it, and you can summon 3 of them at the same time instead of 1 per go like it used to be. Ortholists are a long-ranged sentient. They inflict only Tau damage and status effects, Tau status effects to be precise, onto the field of enemies en masse with their cannon and mortar forms, and their mortars have 300% status chance and their cannons have 100% status. I mean, it's just a lot of Tau status going on. And Simulists are a portal-based sentient. They basically regenerate your shield really, really well, and they distract the enemy, so they are kind of like a priority target once they're summoned. So the Simulists effectively kind of protect you and your allies. And their shield recharge that applies to you and your allies can be scaled with ability strength and ability range, but you can only summon one of these at a time. And the Simulist will actually summon their own little Coralists, so you'll have like 6 floating around you, basically looking after you. It's awesome. We'll get into that in a moment. And last but not least, Fusion Strike. They say it's one of his abilities that benefits most from the quality of life changes, alongside a few recalculations of how the damage is delivered. So they changed the damage type from blast to Tau, and it inflicts Tau status effects. The beam itself deals a base of 15,000 Tau damage per second, and that scales with ability strength. In addition to the beam dealing damage, struck enemies will explode with further damage after the cast. The Convergence Explosion deals 750 base Tau damage that scales with ability strength. The enemy detonation we just mentioned deals 5,000 base Tau damage, also scaling with ability strength, and the beam has a status chance of 20%. So Fusion Strike, I think it's like an armor stripper. So they call it defense reduction, which is armor and shields being stripped. It only occurs once as the Fusion Strike beam is cast. It's 50% defense reduction at 100 ability strength, or 100% at 200 ability strength. So the higher your ability strength, the more it's going to strip those shields and armor off the enemies. Fusion Strike's beam will apply the defense reduction alongside the radial field. They said it's back, and that is the best of both worlds. I didn't realize it had gone. I haven't really used it much. Fusion Strike's beam can now deal damage multiple times in one instance, meaning the beam can proc multiple damage ticks in one activation, and that supports damaging enemies more than once. And they've reduced the turning speed of your character when you're casting, because they wanted it to make it feel like it was more of a committed thing, so you're not just spamming it constantly, I guess. And you got to remember those Conculists will also Fusion Strike at the same time as you. And when you cast it, you are now immune from damage for the duration of the cast, which is, I think, pretty awesome. And before we look into modding him and taking him out into the field, let's have a quick look at his skins. He doesn't have many. 2, his original and the Orfeo, and he has a few different helmets that you could purchase. The Orfeo costs 165 platinum, I think, at the moment on the market, but it is a damn fine looking skin. And it also changes the appearance of his sentients that you bring in, and obviously they are color coordinated with you, if that matters to you. Look how beautiful that skin is. The other thing I wanted to mention very briefly is his signature weapon is the melee weapon called the Venato, and you can get that from the Tenno Lab research to build, and here are the components that you need to build it. And this is my mod configuration. As you can see, we've got 4 former in him. I've done a bit of work on him. This is not complete. There are certain things I'd want to switch out, and there was some talk of putting Equilibrium in him, and I can't remember what the other mod was. It's basically trying to keep up his energy, but I found he didn't run out of energy. He was fine. I started at this point, after formering him up 4 times, helmet thing off his first ability, which I kind of regretted. So I started looking at his Fusion Strike, switching that out for Pillage. Because it's also an armor stripper, it's quicker, and it also boosts up your shields. And of course, his sentience that you summon will also regen your shields like super quick and keep you safe. So I haven't actually tested that out at the point of recording, but I'm going to. And I'm going to put, obviously, his Razor Gyre back as 1, because I definitely felt like I was missing out once I'd taken it off. So I took us off to the Sanctum Simulacrum. Now, this was the second lot of testing I did where I'd helmet some of his ability out, the Razor Gyre, which I ended up missing. But as you can see, we're on level 220 enemy. There's no invincibility, and these are sentients. These are usually the hardest for me to beat in here, and I end up dying. And as you can see, our shields are going up, they're going down, they're going up, they're going down. Now, I've got Nourish on the first here, but I found when I had Razor Gyre on, it did a lot more damage once I'd popped the 2 and then popped the 1. But as you can see, if we bring out the right type of sentient, the Simulists, they will protect you with your shields. They will regen your shields super damn quick. As you can see, those shields are shooting straight back up. Now, if I put Pillage on here, I don't know if my shields cap out at 2,480 at this point. I'm not sure. But as you can see, that took a few moments, but we killed all the sentients. And I've only got my Exceltra Prime. I'm literally using my Exceltra Prime. So I was kind of a bit blown away how effective this second ability is. Look, it just strings them all up in the air and applies Tau status, and which just basically means they're super vulnerable. And I don't know, I think I brought my melee Conculus out maybe. I'm not sure if those are still my Simulists. I can't quite see. But I mean, all of his sentients are freaking useful. It's just knowing maybe in which situation which ones to bring out, and this is why the Simulacrum is brilliant for testing. But look at that, and that's his Fusion Strike. I was having a whale of a time, and I'll be honest, I think I'm nowhere near a full build yet where he's actually going to be fully effective. And as mentioned, I took him out on Steel Path. I didn't go really high level Steel Path because I don't feel like I'm there yet with this build, but he did very well. This is a Void Defense, Steel Path Void Defense. And I'm still on the fence about putting Nourish on his first. I don't think that's the right way forward at all. I kind of like... It felt a bit chaotic, his first ability. When you pop it, you spin basically like a wild tornado, which you can vaguely kind of direct yourself, but you'll get across spaces much quicker. And I liked that, and I liked the effect that it had. If you can aim for a dense group of enemies when you pop it after you've strung them up, by popping your 2, so they're all up in the air, and then you sort of smash into them with your first ability, Spinning Tornado. And it's just very effective, and I kind of missed it as soon as I'd helmeted it off, which is a telltale sign, isn't it? The Fusion Strike, as powerful as it was, I am tempted to run some tests by helmeting that off with Pillage, potentially. Nourish is very good because it helps you boost up your energy really quickly, and it gives you, I think, is it corrosive or toxic status as well on your weapons and your allies if they're in the right area when you pop it. So there's a few options, but I'd be very interested to hear what you guys think. If there's any Caliban experts and the rework experts, I know there's always more to it. There's more in-depthness to it, but without like wanting to ruin the fun of just playing and seeing how much damage you can do. I tend not to like go into all the mathematical equations of just how high you can get the damage. It's just fun to run it out, put a few different mods in, have a go, and then, well, that did okay, and let's try something different. Did this work in my favour? You know, did this helmet ability work in our favour or not? What kind of weapons work in our favour, etc. But generally, I thought this new Caliban rework was very interesting, very useful. I've never really used him before. I find him a bit irksome, and now he doesn't feel like that at all. I feel like he's got huge amounts of potential, and basically, typically, he would be useful, very, very useful, to take on the Railjack Sentient missions I just mentioned, the Murex. Because he does a lot of damage to Sentients. Do you know what I mean? That's typical, isn't it? There is some kind of like old wives' tale in Warframe that where you go and get components, or your Warframe components, is usually where your Warframe would do best. Like that Warframe was made for that mission. You just don't have it yet because you've got to do the mission to get it. You know the irony. So, my darlings, I just want to thank you for joining me in this episode. I'd like to know where you're at with your Calibans, whether you managed to get a freebie by logging in, or whether you're in the middle of grinding one out, whether you had to grind a second one because you want to helmet him, like for his ability. I actually don't know what his helmet ability is once you've shoved him in there. Let me know. Let me know where you're at. Let me know what you think of him, or whether you're a Caliban main even. I don't see him a huge amount in the game, but that doesn't mean he's not being used a lot. Yeah, I'd be interested. And what do you think of the rework? Do you think it's an improvement? I personally do think it's an improvement. I'm enjoying using him now, whereas before when I ranked him up and used him a little bit, I wasn't really sure what to use him for. I knew it was like sentient stuff, but now they've focused in on it and I've read through those notes. I feel a bit more educated without ruining all the fun. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining me. Let me know what you think in the comments of Caliban and whether you're using him much more now. And if you enjoyed this video at all, you got anything out of it, please consider dropping a like, sub, and all those comments. And in the meantime, I want to say thank you for joining. I do hope to see you again in the next one, no matter what it may be. But for now, you take care and goodbye.